Well, hello all. It always helps to push the record button. Now that we've done that, a lot going on around the world. A huge explosion in Beirut, massive corruption here in the U.S., talking about things that don't matter. Our orange person in the U.S. presidency is so worried about the threat of TikTok. But we're not here to talk about TikTok, an app, a little child's app. Who cares about that? Let's go up and talk about what's happening in the Arctic Circle, up in the North Pole, where we're seeing the last huge meltdown of what's left of the ice up there. Let's go look at the board. The complete disintegration of Canadian ice sheet has begun. This is the last survivor, the big ice sheet. It's now disintegrating. This is the last fully intact ice shelf in the Arctic. It lost more than 40% of its mass in just 2 days in July 2020. Let's take a look. Between July 30th and August 4th, it collapsed 40%. It looks like that 2020 is in the top 5 hottest years on record. In Italy, the glacier is collapsing as we speak. They're having to evacuate an entire valley because of the collapse of that glacier. The age of stable climate is now over. Open water on the horizon. There are so many things happening with our ice sheets and how they cause a stable climate on the planet Earth and how we're quickly losing them. Let's go back over to the board. Stanford scientists say the growth of plankton in the Arctic Ocean has increased by 57% in just 2 decades. Scientists say the growing influence of phytoplankton biomass may represent a significant regime shift for the Arctic. The Arctic is warming faster than anywhere else. Plankton is one of the main ways that CO2 is pulled out of the oceans. Now, there's a lot of problems here that this causes. But there's also some good news. So the good news is that it pulls some of the CO2 out because it is a green plant and it has a mass big enough to pull some of the CO2 out of the air and put it into the plankton. Then because this is the beginning of the food chain, fish and other living creatures go and eat this plankton, and then they become food for something else, and the CO2 becomes distributed in other places other than the atmosphere. But there's also some problems. The sun hits the plankton and warms up the ocean around it because it is a dark color, and color is where the sun converts light into heat that then goes in and makes hotter water in the Arctic Ocean. So plankton in the water is a lot of ways that people talk about fixing our excessive CO2 because the plankton will drink it all up very quickly. Now the question is there enough biomass to eat the plankton to keep the CO2 from ending up in the ocean, just floating around in the ocean, and then it goes back because of the wave action, hurricanes and that kind of thing, it ends up back into the atmosphere. Whereas if things can eat the plankton, then that can help with the problem with the excess CO2 in our atmosphere, and our temperature can go down, which means that the biomass of plankton can go back down. We're really churning up quite a brew of problems if we don't start doing something. Has to be each individual. So many things we can do on this problem. Do you really need that gasoline engine to run whatever it is you're running? Lawnmower, sprayer, compressor, whatever it is. Can't you turn that over to electricity? And another thing is that as humans progress in electronics, the more efficient it becomes and the less power is needed to run the same devices. So it's a real mixed bag. Why we're not seeing a complete collapse of the planet right away is because there's ways of correcting things going in both directions. So it's not just to throw up your hands and forget about it. There is a chance to fix things. We've got to use science, got to use intelligence, and we've got to quit thinking of just ourselves on how we're going to fix this. Less driving, less fossil fuel consumption, stop using one-time use plastic if possible. If you find something that's made of metal or recycled material, tell others. Get on the channel here and say, hey, you can get this instead of made of plastic, it's made of metal. And of course, that has its own problems too, adding to CO2 in the atmosphere. But in the big scheme of things, manufacturing is pretty small when it goes to adding CO2 to our atmosphere. So, with that, I'm going to go head out. It's now starting to clear. The drizzle has stopped, and I'm going to go get some quick exercise. And I appreciate all the ups, downs, and new subscribers, and any comments you have to say. I appreciate them. I do read each and every one of them. And until next time.